Hi, I'm Kim Edmonds, and I just want to welcome everyone this evening. I'm the Assistant Director here in the Office of Professional Programs situated on the Catonsville campus. And I want to welcome you once again to the virtual open house for professional engineering programs at UMBC. Tonight, I'm joined by Graduate Program Director, Dr. Toby Gauker. Dr. Gauker will take us through a presentation of programs in the PEP portfolio, and this will include an overview of the following programs: engineering management, systems engineering, technical management, project management, integrated product development, and manufacturing. In addition to the program overview, we will cover admission information, and we'll have time at the end for a question and answer period. I want to also remind everyone that we will hold a special raffle for the Open House Scholarship Bonus at the conclusion of the PowerPoint presentation and before we hold the question and answer period. So you must be present during the live drawing in order to be eligible to win. And our other assistant director will be in touch with you afterwards to whoever the winner is. And now I will turn things over to Dr. Gauker.
Thank you, Kim, and welcome, and thank you all for spending a little time this evening or this morning, whichever time zone you're in, with us. As Kim said, we're going to be going over 3 different programs, and they're listed here. The 3 programs are an engineering management master's degree, one in systems engineering, and one in what's called technical management. I'll go into a little bit more of the differentiators between those as we go forward. Also embedded in those master's degrees, you can earn certificates with us, which is a single or a 4-course sequence that can become part of your master's degree. So it's kind of like a 2 for the price of 1 type deal, where you can have, like, for example, a master's of engineering management degree with a postgraduate certificate in systems engineering or postgraduate certificate in project management, et cetera. So a lot of these certificate programs can be embedded within, and we'll talk about that more in detail. And those are certificate programs that are housed within our department, but we also have available certificates you see in entrepreneurship, cybersecurity, data science, et cetera, where we cooperate with other program areas at the university to allow you to earn an additional certificate. One thing I might mention now, though, is sometimes people want to get more than 1 certificate in 1 master's degree. That's really not the wisest thing or the easiest thing to do. You usually end up spending more than 30 credit hours doing so. So just as a warning, if you want more than 1 certificate, it's going to take more than 30 credit hours. Okay. And as I should have advanced to this slide, because you can notice that students can enroll in either the master's degree programs or they can enroll in the just a certificate program itself. And if you start with a certificate program because you're not sure that you want to go for a full master's, then you can always roll those course sequence into the master's degree program. At the completion, those 12 credit hours that you earn in the certificate can be applied to a master's degree program, meaning you only have to complete 18 more credit hours to earn a full master's degree. Okay, as part of the Division of Professional Studies, we are truly aimed at working professionals, and to that end, we schedule all our classes in the evening time. They either have a 4:30 start time on a Monday through Thursday, or they have a 7:10 start time. Sometimes the students take more than 1 class. Rather than showing up on 2 nights to campus, they'll take 1 class at 4:30 and then they'll take a follow-up class at 7:10, so they only have to come to class once per week. And then we've made it even more accessible because lots of our classes, probably the majority of them, either meet in what's called a hybrid format or an online format. And hybrid format means that half the time you come to the campus for an in-class lecture with the faculty member, the other half the time you're doing either independent work or you're watching a recorded video or you're working on group projects virtually with your fellow classmates so you don't have to come to class. We also have now quite an array of offering of what are called online classes, and those are in either a synchronous or asynchronous mode. Synchronous would mean that it would be, an online live lecture, say Tuesday at 4:30 or, Wednesday at 7:10 p.m. Asynchronous classes are classes where all of the lecture material is all pre-recorded. So, if you're attending school in a different time zone, out in Hawaii or in, Northern Africa or East Asia, you don't have to attend a live class, even online in the middle of the night. If you're in those time zones, you can watch the pre-recorded lecture when you're wide awake and ready to, consume that content. When you come to class, whether it's online or in person, you'll see that the classrooms are interactive. There's a lot of textbook reading that goes on, and article reading to give you new terms and concepts. And so when you come to class, you have the opportunity to work with your fellow classmates to kind of like wrestle with the new concepts and ideas and practice them in a safe environment before you take those new concepts, theories, and skills back into your workplace. Last point I'll make here about being, designed for working professionals is you'll find that every single one of our instructors is both a scholar, meaning they hold advanced degrees in their field of study, but they are also a practitioner, meaning that they have had or do currently have jobs in various industries. That be that biotechnology, federal contracting, information technology, cybersecurity, the whole gamut. We have faculty from across the board. We have people in the finance department, that run, mass and sports finance, and we have, other individuals in a wide variety of fields, so that they actually go beyond just teaching you in this curriculum the theory. They actually can bring that theory into practice for you in the real world. And that's kind of one of the differentiators between UMBC and many other graduate schools. Now here, I wanted to give you a little bit of an orientation slide to the differences between the 3 degree programs, because if you just look at their names, they're really hard to tell what they're made up of. And the first thing I'll say is if you look up at the orange circle here, you'll notice that's called the Master of Professional Studies in Technical Management. And while it says technical management, out of the 3 degree programs, that curriculum has the least amount of technical degree requirements. It is really, it's really about working as a manager in a technical environment. So it concentrates on technical skills. The other end of the spectrum is the Master of Science in Systems Engineering. You can see that that program has the most technical depth, probably, 75 or 80% of it is technically oriented. And so individuals who want to stay more technical might choose that degree program. And then the sweet spot in the middle, where probably most of our students are balancing, the learning that comes from managerial skills development and technical skills development. The MS in Engineering Management has got that sweet spot there for you in the middle. And we're going to go through these in a lot more detail going forward. It's kind of an orientation slide for you. Okay, first we're going to spend a little more time in systems engineering. I'll let you read the notes that are on the side there from quotes from other individuals. My message to you is, if you don't know what systems engineering is, that my favorite story to tell is to think of the human body. And if a group of engineers were to get together and design and build the human body, they would hire a civil engineer to put all the structural bones together. Then they would hire a mechanical engineer to come in and put muscles onto those bones for movement of the body. And then they would hire an electrical engineer to send, electrical signals to move the muscles and move the bones. And then they'd hire a chemical engineer to come in and put, the circulatory system in for nutrition and oxygen exchange with air and things like that. And so now you have, 4 of the major fields of engineering out there. But to make them work well and be coordinated in their effort to put the whole body system together, they need the brain to make it all work. And that's where a systems engineer sits, is they sit as the broker between other fields of engineering to help them come up with, materials and requirements and definition of what a total system is going to be, so that when it's done, it works well together and works seamlessly together. And in the systems engineering field, you'll learn, about a systems engineering process. Okay, it starts with some very deliberate coursework on requirements definition, and a lot of modeling, and a lot of testing. But since it is a management degree, it does take into account the need to take managerial and leadership skills development. The most important point here, though, and again, is a differentiator between UMBC and many other programs, is that in our systems engineering program, there's an organization called INCOSE, which is the International Council on Systems Engineering, that every systems engineer out there is a member of that society, and gaining a certification from that society is really a ticket to the highest quality, best paying jobs as a systems engineer. If you enter this program here and you complete our SYST 660 course, which is the very first course in the curriculum, Systems Engineering Principles, INCOSE will allow you to waive sitting for the knowledge exam for their systems engineering professional certifications. And you can either become an associate right away or a certified level individual right away, depending upon the work experience that you bring to the table. But your educational requirement is completely and totally met by just taking Systems 660. You don't have to sit for or pay for that separate exam. So that's an important differentiator for this program. Here's a little more detail about the systems engineering program. You'll see the courses that are labeled in blue here represent the core of the curriculum. They're kind of like non-negotiable. And as I mentioned, you get your principles course. That systems engineering principles is the 660 course. Then you move on to modeling and simulations. Once you've got your model ready, and the reason you do modeling and simulation is in systems engineering, many of these systems are really big, like airplanes or aircraft carriers, or hospital systems or traffic systems for a city, whatever they are. They're very large and very costly to build and make mistakes on. So you do a lot of computer modeling in this curriculum. And then you go off after you do modeling, you architect over there under systems architecture and design. You design a full-scale system, and then once it's built, you will then test it and test for integration amongst the various subcomponents before the system is commercialized. All through that, there also is a thread for decision and risk analysis, because most of these systems are new systems that are being built. There's a level of uncertainty with them, so it's really important to make informed decisions that minimize the risk to the project. And so that decision and risk analysis course is another core course. At the end of your program of study, you'll see that box in the center there, Systems Engineering Project, is the course that you take as a capstone that lets you tie both the orange, the gold, and the blue coursework that you had together to prove to yourself and to others that you are truly worthy of becoming a systems engineer. Okay, moving on now to engineering management. Engineering management is really a field of study. I'll let you just read the slide here, but to me, engineering management is a field of study that is what I call a bilingual area of study. The world is owned and operated nowadays by engineers and technology professionals building things, but those individuals need to have a good command of the managerial skill set as well, so that they can become leaders in making the next generation products that we have out there. And so engineering management is a nice blend of helping you to advance your technical careers. And that can be either in the study that you had as an undergraduate, or you can switch to a completely different field of study. If you want to have some advanced studies in another area of study, you can pick a degree specialization in another area. But at the same time, you're still working on building those managerial and leadership skills. And some of those leadership skills will be around, law and ethics and finance and project management. as you know, as well as that idea, like I said, to give you a chance to focus on your technical skills development. The details of the curriculum here are shown on this page. You can see the capstone again in the center, like we had in systems engineering, but this time surrounding that are courses that are a lot less technical in nature. They're leadership and communications, law and ethics, project management fundamentals, and financial management. Every good engineering manager knows how to build a financial case for the projects that they're working on. And so that represents the core of the managerial aspects. You get to come up with one of the electives, either from leading virtual and global teams, strategic management, or leading teams and organizations to round out your managerial talents. And then you'll spend the rest of the time in your degree program in one of the orange box areas, either studying management science or cybersecurity, data science, biotechnology, any number of technical areas that you can use to advance your field of study. Say you graduated with an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering, but you find yourself building equipment for a pharmaceutical firm, and so additional technical coursework in biotechnology would be of use to you. You can certainly pursue that as part of this degree program. So as I said, here's kind of like a bigger listing of some of the focus areas. International project management is certainly one that is gaining interest in these days, but biotechnology, technology development, cybersecurity, there's a wide range of areas that you can use to kind of like customize and tailor the degree program to suit you the best that it needs to be. And then our third degree program is technical management. And again, it's a little bit odd that it's called technical management since it's the degree program that has the least amount of technical studies in it. But this degree program is honestly put together for individuals who don't necessarily come to us with a highly technical background. You don't have to be an engineer or a technology professional to be successful in this degree program or to make use of this degree program. What you do need is to be working for a technology-oriented company. And then what we do is we equip you with a curriculum that gives you the managerial skill sets described in a technical context so that you can then go into your organization and ask technical questions of the organization. And when the technical answers come back, while you do understand them, what's most important is you're going to understand the managerial implications of the technical answers. So you're not going to be helping to advance the technology to put, new widgets or new codes or things, but you'll determine new markets and new opportunities for existing products to add new features and benefits because you know the context of the technical field, but you're really working on the managerial aspects of that. And here again, the focus is on leadership skills, much like the first portion of the engineering management program. You do the same thing on leading teams and organizations, et cetera, but your additional focus area this time is not in a technical area. It'll be in the field of project management or organizational management or a managerial sciences program area. Here's the same roadmap that we have for the degree program in technical management. Just like the other programs, the blue courses are the required courses. In the center is that capstone that you'll take in your last semester to tie everything together. But you can see surrounding that are, decision and risk analysis, law and ethics, leading teams, strategic management, et cetera. They're all, opportunities to build your kind of like business acumen, since you're going to be working in the business world in a technical context. You can then concentrate on managerial sciences, additional courses, or you can, we have the option to open if you want to take a class from data science or a class from cybersecurity to just have a little bit of knowledge in those areas. That's quite, that's quite acceptable as well. Okay, I mentioned at the beginning that we have a number of standalone and inclusive certificate programs. Examples of two of them are here. Project management and integrated product development and manufacturing. So one is project management, the other is product management. Okay, So these are both very popular, either standalone or as add-ons, and you can see the 4-course sequence here. Takes you through, a progression in project management leading to an advanced project management course where the faculty actually puts you into a real-world situation with an organization on a real project. One note here, though, is to mention that in the ENMG 650 class, the Project Management Fundamentals class, if you complete that class successfully, you have acquired the educational requirements and the knowledge you need to sit for the Project Management Institute's PMI certification. You don't pre-qualify, you must take the exam. In this case, it's not like the NCOSE exam, but you will meet the educational requirements that the PMI has set out to sit for their exam. So if you're interested in earning a PMP to go along with your degree program, all you have to do is take 650 and then sit for that exam. The integrated product development and manufacturing curriculum, as you see here, is run cooperatively between us and the mechanical engineering department. And it's really focused on helping you, be in an organization where, someone comes up with a new idea for a product and they go like, what's the smartest way for us to manufacture this and, do it at scale? It's one thing to make, a couple of widgets here and there, or to, make 5,000 of something. But if you're going to make 1 million of something, or, a couple 100,000 of something, you need a well-structured, well-designed, manufacturing operation and manufacturing process. And that's what that curriculum is going to teach you. Moving on to the admission requirements for the program. For all of them, or for most of them, you need an engineering or computer science or information systems background. In the case of technology management, though, we relax that requirement, and we just say we'd like to see several years of work in a technology-oriented business. And that's really to protect you, to make sure that you get the most out of the program. If you don't have that context, to anchor the new skills and practice the new skills that you're learning, it won't be of as much use to you. We're looking for you to be able to be competent and successful in graduate studies. And one good indicator of that is that as an undergraduate, you had a grade point average, of 3.0 on a 4.0 scale. I'm capable of converting, 5-point scales, 10-point scales, 20-point scales to this level. So I can help with that to see whether or not you have the competency to succeed in graduate school. We do not, on the other hand, have that competency test of a graduate admissions exam. You don't have to take the GRE. We're a little more lenient on that. We don't think you need to be burdened by that expense. We can figure out your ability to be successful without that. Sometimes we have students who, they say, well, I had a 2.9 GPA or a 2.85, but I do have, 10 years of work experience and I've been very successful in business. That also qualifies as, as a good demonstration that you'll be serious and successful in graduate school. So it's not a hard stop on the 3.0 scale. We combine that with your work experience and success in the job as well. If you're an international applicant, we're going to require an English proficiency test from you. Unfortunately, all the curriculum that we have is taught in the English language, and we need you to communicate back to us clearly in the English language so we can evaluate your performance. In the degree program, we do accept TOEFL, the International English Language Testing System scores, PTEs, and Duolingo scores. One note of caution, though, is if you've taken those several years ago, you're going to need to retake those because your command of the English language is only as as fresh as the last 2 years that you've used it. Also, international applicants will need to supply us with two letters of recommendation. They can come from an employer. They can come from a former school faculty member. Any number of sources for that are possible. So that kind of summarizes all the slides there. I'm going to pause here for a second and say that in summary, with these degree programs, you get to choose the level of technical depth that you want. You get to choose an area of specialization if you want to have it, or if you want to be broad brush, you can select your elective courses from across many different areas. You don't have to have a specialization. You can hedge your bets and take one cybersecurity, one data science, one biotech, one systems engineering. You can broaden yourself out. If you want to specialize, though, you can also select the concurrent certificate program to enroll in. It doesn't cost any extra to do that. And then the next choice you have is to attend classes on campus or in hybrid modality or in a fully online modality and navigate your way through the curriculum. And then, of course, you choose the time of evening. If you come to class, it'll be either 4:30 or 7:10 p.m. And you can see my theme of choosing. The last item is to choose your next promotion or choose your next career move when you end up at the end of your program of study. Okay, we're going to pause here. I'll let Kim come back in, and we're up to the point in time where we've reached the end of our prepared slide deck. We're going to do a Q&A after this period, but wanted to pause here for a sec.
Thank you, Dr. Gauker. And for those of you who joined a little bit late, this portion of the evening is to do our special scholarship bonus raffle. And there are about 12 of us here, and I've collected all of your names. I'm taking attendance, and I've placed all your names into this little bucket here. And I'm just going to draw out a name, and the person whose name I call, I would just ask that you identify yourself, either say hello, or you can unmute to do that, or just at least use the raised hand feature there in the chat. Okay. Christoph Haddad.
Who are you?
Hi, Christoph. Thanks. Okay, so you're our winner. And what's going to happen is that Stephanie Allen, who is the other
Thank you.
assistant director, congratulations. The assistant director, Stephanie Allen, will be in contact with you tomorrow morning. It's evening here. I don't know where you're situated right now, but
I am truly lucky. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And we have all of your contact information here, and we'll be in touch then. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. And we'll move on.
Okay. So the next thing is we're going to open the floor up for questions. But Kim has also put a note in here for all of our attendees. We're all winners. Okay, that you have the opportunity in the special populations code on your application to put in DPS 2023, and we will be waiving your $50 application fee for you. Typically what happens is we get questions after the fact, so I'll slide. So that's the slide up here. We don't need to see the question slides. For those of you who don't want to hear questions in a public forum, we've included both Kim and mine's email address. If you have questions about the admissions process, as a follow-up, as you think about them as you go throughout the rest of your day-to-day, you can send those questions over to Kim. If they're of more of a curriculum nature or a course decision nature, then you can send those kinds of questions to me, and we'll help you out with either one. Okay, we do have a question.
Dr. Gauker, do you want to take that one? It's the difference between technology management and engineering management.
Yeah. Okay. The primary purpose of the engineering management degree is to take individuals who have a technical background. Say you're an undergraduate degree in, chemical engineering or computer science or civil engineering, and you want to advance at the master's degree level and become a manager in the field. That's the degree program that you pursue, because it allows you to earn additional credits in a strong engineering field, while at the same time learning management and leadership skills. On the other hand, the technical management field is similarly designed, but it's really focused on individuals that may not have a strong engineering or technology undergraduate degree. It could be that they have a degree in forestry or something like that, but they find themselves, working for Google or Verizon or something like that, some organization that's highly technical. What we do there in that program is we've really worked to advance your managerial skills in a technical context. Okay, so we still are, both programs will graduate an individual who's a functional manager. He has the ability to be a functional manager in their area, but the most of the difference is about how much additional technical advancement you want to have.
Okay, so my questions for English proficiency testing. There are some countries that have English as their official language, and I think that have been listed on the website. And please, some countries have been listed for English proficiency testing. So I would just recommend looking at the website. I mean, if English is the language, the main language of your country, the official language, you don't have to take the English language proficiency. So it doesn't have necessarily to do with whether it's taught in school or what have you. It's the official language of
your country.
Right. So like, for instance, some West African countries such as Nigeria, we don't require the testing, but in India we do. And so, I recommend just really taking a good look at that. Are international students eligible for internships while doing engineering management? So yeah, okay, if you're a student who's here as an F1 student, there are some restrictions about when you can get do an internship. You have to do at least 2 full semesters on campus before you can do an internship off campus. During the first couple of semesters, you can get a small job on campus or anything like that. One of the things that's really great about the engineering management program and the way it's set up, if you are taking full-time classes, you need to take 10 classes. And so in that final semester, in your 4th semester, you really just have a one big project related capstone course. And so a lot of students will take that final course and then also take an internship as well. So you are allowed to do that.
Yeah, I will mention though also that internships are not part of the academic curriculum that I manage. We have you work with our career development office on those internships. We have no internships. We have no assistantships, whether they be, residence advisors or teaching assistants or anything else within the engineering management or systems engineering or technical management departments. As a member of the Division of Professional Studies, we have lots of students who are working professionals that already have jobs. So we're not oriented towards helping people get jobs. We do have the ability to send you to the Career Development Center for those activities, but inside the department, we don't offer those kinds of things. And it's not part of the curriculum, but as Kim says, in your last term, it's an excellent opportunity to get a full-time job head start while you're finishing your last course in the program of study.
Someone is asking about admission for fall 2023. So I'll say a couple of things. So spring 2023 is underway. We are just at the very beginning of the admission process for spring 2023. We are still, getting the last students in for fall 2022, and classes are, underway and everybody's settling in. So for spring 2022, you can expect a decision, probably sometime in October, November. We do have a large number of applications, so we will be working through them as quickly as possible. And registration opens on December 1. So you have some time to get a decision from us, and then there'll be time for registration in December, and then classes begin at the very end of January, like the last day of January 31. And then for fall, you're really thinking, pretty far out. We really don't look at those applications until February, after we sort of close the books on spring 2023. So if you're looking for fall 2023, I really recommend waiting to put in an application so that all of your information is up to date. I think sometimes when folks, apply a bit too early, then, sometimes their information gets out of date. So that's kind of the flow we have for admissions right now. And, we look forward to getting an application from you if you haven't already applied. Yes, international students can still apply. As I mentioned earlier, we're just at the beginning of the season. So we have a question about visas, and yes, we cannot do anything to help a student get a visa. What can UMBC do to help get a student getting a visa? And unfortunately, those are sort of outside of our control. You know, obviously, we have international office, and we issue an I-20 for any student that requests one after they have been admitted. And students do go, and they have to go through the interview process. Many students get visas, some get denied, and we just don't know. We don't know enough to know why that happens. And I know that we are well aware that it takes a lot of time to get a visa. We also know in some countries, students can get it in a week. It's such a volatile sort of industry. And so, I think that it's really hard to tell, but, many of our students are able to go through that process. So, okay. So then can you please help me know the career outcomes for a computer science undergraduate that gets enrolled in engineering management? Dr. Gauker, is that something you can address?
Yes, the field is really wide open to you. The folks are going to look less at your undergraduate degree when you have an engineering management master's degree. Typically, what happens as soon as you graduate, you're hired into a business analyst position, and where you go from there is fully dependent on you. It can pivot into, from a computer science point of view, it can be in the data science field, it can be in the cybersecurity field. You can move into any number of fields of study because the actual area of study as your undergraduate becomes a little less important. What becomes more important is, as a graduate school student in engineering management, say, for example, you pursue the engineering management degree with that as an undergraduate, but you take a 4-course sequence in biotechnology, regulatory affairs. You can then position yourself for a business analyst position in a biotech firm here in the United States. So it's really an opportunity to put a new skin, so to speak, or a new wrapper, if you will, if you want to use data science terms, on the external nature of your undergraduate studies. See, we had a question about does UMBC offer an MBA? We do not offer a Master of Business Administration. We focus solely on an engineering management degree program. The primary differences being that in an engineering management program, you don't have classes in marketing or sales or accounting. Many of the other skills between the two degree programs are the same. And for individuals who want to become managers in technically oriented companies, there's just as much horsepower behind a engineering management degree as there is an MBA degree.
And then there's a question about the I-20 process. So again, we have the International Student Scholar Services Department here on campus. And so what happens is once you're admitted to UMBC, you're contacted by that office. And there's just a very easy sort of do-it-yourself process where you set up a portal and you go in and you put your information in, and they will send you an I-20 with all the right information for your program and everything, so that when you go to your visa interview, you have your I-20, you have your letter of admission, and you'll use that. And that actually, the turnaround is pretty quick. It's like a week or two. But I also, again, would say we have had just unprecedented volume. And so all of our processes are slower. I hear you. I see people are saying, well, you need to get an early decision for a visa. But I think that, on our end, we are also experiencing just, very high volume. And so we are working through as quickly as we can. And students, as I mentioned, are, getting into the visa interviews and, getting their visa. But again, also sometimes getting denied. Unfortunately, it seems like a very it's an unknown or volatile kind of area. But anyways, okay, let's see. Other questions.
I see a question from Abhishek about on-campus jobs for international students. And as you mentioned, Kim, in your first semester, the jobs are limited to on-campus, and typically those jobs are rather straightforward. They end up, being in library services, or working in the bookstore, or working as maybe not in your first semester as a residence hall advisor or a teaching assistant, because people don't know you on campus. But once you arrive on campus, there are a wide variety of types of jobs. I've noticed a lot of our students working in the coffee shops that are on campus, and cafeterias that are on campus. Other more student-facing services that are really the on-campus type jobs. After that, when your visa lets you, there are many organizations in the business community that hire our graduates for 20 hours a week of internships. But the on-campus jobs are primarily more of the service orientation type positions.
The next two questions, which is which terms do we do an intake for, and then also about fall 2023. So we allow admission in the spring semester and the fall semester. So the spring semester again starts January 31st. The fall semester starts August 31st. And the admission cycles for those terms for spring starts really now in September. And for fall, basically mid-February. So if you're applying for fall, you could start the application process in January or something like that. We will get to those applications in February. And that, there's plenty of time to get a decision at that point, and then, get the I-20 and make a visa appointment. You've got the whole summer to sort of get that figured out. So that's what I would recommend. We do not have an intake, for instance, in the summer. You can't start in June or anything like that. And then lastly, there's another question about document support for a lower GPA. So if you have a low GPA, we really are looking at your transcript, and that's really what we're looking at. So we don't necessarily.
The only thing I'd add for that is that, that is one indication that you're prepared for graduate level studies. The other indication would be that you've had like 5 years of work experience in a professional community where you have good reviews, and you've been promoted in your job because you've shown success in your field of study, where you may not have had the chance to learn and demonstrate that success in school. Post graduation, you found a way to demonstrate that success in the workplace through extended work effort and an ability to be promoted. Both those are acceptable indications of potential success in the graduate school. But coming to us with a low GPA and lots of other personal reasons why your GPA is low, but that you would promise to be a good student doesn't work, because you don't have the proper level of knowledge to come into it. You can't make up for a lack of knowledge that you didn't get as an undergraduate unless you do it in the workplace.
So another question is, can PMI certification add to one's chances of getting admission?
It may or may not. If if you're a person with that 2.9 GPA, or if you've got a 6.7 on a 10-point scale, we would certainly take that into consideration, because it is a clear demonstration of an ability to study a subject and be successful at a graduate level. But it alone is going to have a minor contribution. You still have to have a strong application otherwise. And we're not, we don't do as many schools do limit the number of students that we take. Like we're only going to take, 22 students in this intake. We have the ability, since we are staffed with faculty that are working professionals, to draw upon a community of scholar practitioners, so that if we have qualified candidates, you don't have to differentiate yourself amongst the other qualified candidates. Everyone who is qualified receives an offer of admission. It's not tied to any kind of specific metrics where we only take 22 students or 50 students or 75 students. We take all qualified students.
And then there's a question here about assistantships. And so, yeah, so while the Office of Professional Programs, any of the programs, under that umbrella, we do not offer assistantships or any kind of funding like that. Once you're here, you can apply for assistantships in other departments.
Yeah, you have to be here, right?
Yeah, you really do. And that's what I hear from students. Like, some students will try to do it from right after they get admitted, and it's really difficult to do that. But once you've been here for a semester or two, you make some contacts, and you may be, you can apply and more likely to get it.
As with most jobs, by the way, for those of you who have not been working professionals, getting a job is as much about your qualifications as it is about the people who know you and know you well. So, so it's very rare that someone will hire you for anything sight unseen. Okay. So, so that's why, our students tell us that while they struggle and they make applications before they get here, they get little return on that investment. They have to wait until they arrive on campus and they can see someone face to face. And, once they put a face to a name, then it's much easier to obtain a position. Yes, we do require a statement of purpose. And the important elements of a statement of purpose is not that you tell us about our program. You need to tell us about yourself and what you plan to do, what your career goals are. We're looking to try and make sure that what we offer is a good fit for your future. If you don't know what your future is going to be and you can't describe it, we can't help you decide if it's a good fit. And we're likely to take a pass on inviting you because it's too high a risk for you and for us. So you have to be clear about what you want to be and what you want to do in your statement of purpose.
Yes. Okay. So there's a question about the waiver code and will it work for fall 2023? Yes, it will work for spring 2023 and fall 2023.
Okay. I'm a mechanical engineer. Is engineering management a better fit for me? Again, it really depends upon your directions. Most of the mechanical engineers that I see that come through our program of study seem to have a keen interest in the engineering management degree program, and then they'll specialize. Additionally, they'll take on the integrated product development and manufacturing certificate program. And that seems to be a good fit for them. But again, it's more not about what your background is, it's what do you want to do in life.
And if there aren't any other questions, we can wrap up here, and we'll just say thank you once again for joining us. I really do recommend, if you haven't done so, to just take a really good look through our website once again and look at some of our programs. There's a lot of good information about, again, what you can take, what you can do. Of course, Dr. Gallagher's presentation summed that up here, but I also think it's good to just take a look at some of the course descriptions and also the electives that you might be able to take, things like that. If you have any questions, of course, you have our email information. Please feel free to be in contact. For those of you who have already applied and are waiting for a decision, as I mentioned, we will get underway soon, and we'll be getting those decisions out to you as soon as possible. So I'll say thanks once again for joining us, and we'll end it here. Thanks again for coming, everybody.